Sorry.
I really hate to break up the party because it's so nice to be together again. We'll begin with our summary thought, which I left over here. Our summary thought comes from our baby dedication. When we dedicate babies with the water that comes from our water communion, which starts at the beginning of the year, that's how we start out our year. We say, I touch your brow with the water from nature, from old nature's infinite sky, the water that touches every shore and nourishes every race of people. In so doing, I dedicate your life and thought to the good of all humankind and to your own true growing. With that, we begin our service. Good morning. Following this service, we have our annual meeting, and all members, we invite you to stay. We hope it won't be a long meeting. We need to approve our budget for next fiscal year, as well as our nominating slate. And so I hope you'll stay for that and hear all the news that was fit to print about our year. I also want to encourage you to participate in our yard sale, which is next Saturday. You can participate in lots of ways. If you feel like baking, you could add things to the bake table. If you feel like potting up some plants that are in your yard that you don't want anymore, you could add those to the greens table. If you want to get a table and get rid of your own stuff, church members and friends get one free. So please do consider coming to participate. And next Sunday is our final Sunday of the church year. We will have a picnic following worship. We will provide all the sandwiches, and all you need to do is, and drinks, and so all you need to do is bring a salad or dessert if you wish, but you don't have to bring anything to participate in the picnic. And we hope to have our all-church picnic, so we picture after church. So if you can come and stand on the steps, that would be fantastic, because we haven't had an all-church picture in over a year. I have one more announcement, and I asked Jonathan Payford to give that announcement.
Good morning, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
So, I don't have any prepared remarks other than to introduce myself first and say I'm Jonathan Pape, as she said. It's nice to meet you. I'm an incoming chair for the parish committee. I wanted to invite all of you to the Flag Day Parade. I have enrolled us as participants, and we need participants. So I hope you will join me and my other incoming chair, Keita, who's waving so nicely over there for everybody, so you should wave to her and say hi. The parade starts at 6 p.m. The route is pretty much the same if you lived here. I hope you will invite anyone you know who's part of the community who isn't here. We'd love to have all members. Raleigh is working on a banner for us. This is a great opportunity for us to reach out to the community and say, we're here. We'd love to see you. We'd love to have you be a part of what we're doing here. You know, everyone's been away. This feels like a great chance to try to bring people to us and say, this is who we are, this is what we do. Try to get some candy for the kids to hand out, something fun, something to do. So Raleigh has a mailing list to get information out to you, but the 14th, Tuesday the 14th, folks are going to start gathering at the middle school around 5 p.m. Parade will start at 6 p.m. If you're available, please join us, please walk with us. It's a little bit of a longer walk, so there's some choose. Thank you.
We will now begin our morning worship. Our opening words this morning are Be You by Peter Reynolds. My wish for you, no matter where your journey leads, is for you to always be you. Be ready to take that next step towards being an amazing human being. Be curious. Turn every stone, ask every why, and keep digging deeply. Discover your own answers. Be adventurous. Live a big life. When you are ready, step outside your comfort zone. Bravely explore new paths and see where they lead you. Be connected. Find kindred spirits. Be with those who make you feel like the real you. Be persistent. Keep going, never stop. Keep going, never stop. Keep going, never stop. Be different. Be silly, be quirky, be odd, be unique, be weird, be colorful, be okay with being different. Be just the way you are. Be kind. Be understanding. Help those around you to be themselves. Listen. Then listen some more. Learn more about who they are. Be brave. Try new things. Take a deep breath and plunge forward into new experience. It gets easier every time you try. Be your own thinker. Think for yourself and set your own unique course. It isn't always easy, but you'll be heading in the direction of you. Be okay being alone. Take time to be on your own. Hear your own thoughts, your inner voice. Listen to your heart. Be patient. Being more you takes time. Take a deep breath. Relax. Let your future unfold at its own pace. It will be worth the wait. Be okay with reaching out for help. When you need a helping hand and a compassionate ear, an encouraging word, reach out. As you voyage out into the world, remember, no matter what, you will always be loved. So are you ready? Go ahead, be you. Be very, very you. And now I invite you to join me in singing our opening hymn 361. 361 in your grade hymnal. Enter, rejoice, and come in. I invite Miranda and Jillian forward to light our chalice. Just say all the things that we want.
We light the chalice today in memory of the children who were lost in the Uvalde shooting, who cannot celebrate this day with their families.
And we light the green sanctuary candle for the next generation and all their efforts to sustain the planet for them.
Please stand as you're willing and able to say with me the unison affirmation as printed in your order of worship. Love is the spirit spirit of this church and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to serve humanity in love is our covenant with each other and with God. You may be seated. And I invite our readers of our intergenerational message. And we start by bringing the sound into our hearts and our minds and our spirits so we can open our listening ears. When you stop hearing it, you can just let me know by nodding your head or bowing down.
Hi, so we're reading Miss Rumpus by Barbara Kuhn.
The Lady Lupin lives in a small house overlooking the sea. In between the rocks around her house grow blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. The Lupin lady is little and old, but she has not always been that way. I know. She is my great aunt, and she told me so. Once upon a time, she was a little girl named Alice who lived in a city by the sea. From the front stoop, she could see the wharves and the bristling masts of tall ships. Many years ago, her grandfather had come to America on a large sailing ship.
Now, he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house, making figureheads for the prows of ships, carving Indians out of wood to put up in front of the cigar stores. For Alice's grandfather was an artist. He painted pictures, too, of sailing ships and places across the sea. When he was very busy, Alice had to put it in disguise.
In the evening, Alice sat on her grandfather's knee and listened to his stories of faraway places. When he had finished, Alice would say, "When I grow up, I too will go to faraway places, and when I grow old, I too will live beside the sea." "That is all very well, little Alice," said her grandfather, "but there is a third thing you must do." "What is that?" asked Alice. "You must do something to make the world more beautiful," said her grandfather. "All right," said Alice, but she did not know what that could be. In the meantime, Alice got up and washed her face and ate porridge for breakfast. She went to school and came home and did her homework, and pretty soon she was grown up.
Then, my great aunt Alice set out to do 3 things she had told her grandfather she was going to do. She left home and went to live in a city far from the sea in the salt air. There, she worked in a library, dusting books and keeping them from getting mixed up, and helping people find the ones they wanted. Some of the books told her about faraway places. People called her Miss Rumpus.
Sometimes she went to the conservatory in the middle of the park. When she stepped inside on a wintry day, the moist air wrapped itself around her, and the sweet smell of jasmine filled her nose. "This is almost like a tropical isle," said Miss Rumpus, "but not quite."
So, Miss Rumpus went to a real tropical island where people kept cockatoos and monkeys as pets. She walked on long beaches, picking up beautiful shells. One day she met Baba Raha, king of the fishing village. "You must be tired," he said. "Come into my house and rest." So Miss Rumpus went in and met with Baba Raha's wife. And Baba Raha himself fetched a green coconut and cut a slice at the top so that Miss Rumpus could drink coconut water inside. Before she left, the Baba Raha gave her a beautiful mother of pearl shell on which she had painted a bird of paradise and the words, "You will always remain in my heart." "You will always remain in my heart too," said Miss Rumpus.
My great aunt, Miss Alice Rumpus, climbed tall mountains where the snow never melted. She went through jungles and across deserts. She saw lions playing and kangaroos jumping. And everywhere she made friends she would never forget. Finally, she came to the land of the lotus eaters, and there, getting off a camel, she hurt her back. What a foolish thing to do, said Miss Rumpus. Well, I certainly have seen faraway places. Maybe it is time to find a place by the sea. And it was, and she did.
From the porch of her new house, Miss Rumpus watched the sun come up. She watched across the heavens and sparkle on the water. She saw it set in glory in the evening. She started a little garden among the rocks that surrounded her house and planted a few flower seeds in the stony ground. Miss Rumpus was almost perfectly happy. There is still one more thing I have to do, she said. I have to do something to make the world more beautiful. But what? The world is already pretty nice, she thought, looking out over the ocean.
The next spring, Miss Rumpus was not very well. Her back was bothering her again, and she had to stay in bed most of the time. The flowers she had planted in the summer before had come up and bloomed in spite of the stony ground. She could see them from her bedroom window, blue and purple and rose-colored. Lupins, said Miss Rumpus with satisfaction. I've always loved lupins the best. I wish I could plant more seeds this summer so that I could still have more flowers next year, but she was not able to.
After a hard winter spring came, Miss Rumpus was feeling much better. Now she could take walks again. One afternoon, she started to go up and over the hill, where she had not been in a long time. I don't believe my eyes, she cried when she got to the top. For there on the other side of the hill was a large patch of blue and purple and rose-colored lupins. It was the wind, she said as she knelt in delight. It was the wind that brought the seeds from my garden here. The birds must have helped. Then Miss Rumpus had a wonderful idea.
She hurried home and got out her seed catalogs. She sent off to the very best seed houses for 5 bushels of lupin seed. All that summer, Miss Rumpus, her pockets full of seeds, wandered over fields and headlands, sowing lupins. She scattered seeds along the highways and down the country lanes. She flung handfuls of them around the schoolhouse and the back of the church. She tossed them into hollows and along stone walls. Her back didn't hurt her anymore at all. So now some people call her that crazy old lady.
The next spring, there were lupins everywhere. Fields and hillsides were covered with blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. They bloomed along the highways and down the lanes. Bright patches lay about the schoolhouses and the back of the church. Down in the hollows along the stone walls grew the beautiful flowers. Miss Rumpus had done the most difficult thing of all.
My great aunt Alice, Miss Rumpus, is very old now. Her hair is very white. Each year there are more and more lupins. Now they call her the Lupin Lady. Sometimes my friends stand with me outside the gate, curious to see the old lady who planted the fields of lupins. When she invites us in, they come slowly. I think she's the oldest woman in the world. Often she tells us stories of faraway places. When I grow up, I tell her, I too will go to faraway places and come home to live by the sea. That is all very well, little Alice, said my aunt. But there's a third thing you must do. What is that? I asked. You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, I say.
But I don't know yet what that can be. The end.
And now an offering to support and sustain the ministries of this church, and especially our children, will be now given and gratefully received. It is at this time in our service that we recognize our children and their growth, our graduates, and our different markers in their lives. We begin with recognizing those students entering the third grade. We recognize children entering the third grade because it's a transition from, well, I've always thought fourth grade is when you know everything and you start telling everybody what to do. So it's a transition from being told what to do into knowing a lot more and telling other people what to do. So for that reason, today we recognize Theo Langmaid. Okay. Thank you. Please tell her to say congratulations. And Maeve Godomsky. And Ethan Barton, who is not with us today. Our second group that we recognize are our high school graduates. High school graduation is a huge marker in showing that you are grown, that you're ready to take the next step in your life, make decisions for yourself. You're of age in many ways. And with that in mind, we want to recognize Kyman Davey. Thank you. And Harper Stevens Darrow. Shay Atkins, who isn't with us today, and Lucy Carlson Petrella. Hearing your problem. You know, I wore them because Marissa gave them to me, and she's not here today, but I like to wear them on children someday when Marissa's here. There we go. finally, we recognize our college graduates. Molly Ames and Georgia Krikorian. I think it's very poignant to recognize all of these children today because it's been a long time since we've seen our children and they've all grown so much. Some in height, like Harper, and some in just maturity. They've all grown in maturity and they've all grown in so many ways. So just let's give them one more round of applause.
The next meeting was supposed to be done by Marissa, but she's unfortunately ill today. So in her place, we invite Rosie up to do our meeting.
And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the air that flies, so he loves also the bow that
And now we recognize our teachers. Without our teachers, we could have no UU Explorers program. And all these teachers are volunteers. And so we want to especially thank our volunteer teachers. We'll start with Carrie Gallagher. Josh Langmaid. Liza Aran. Judy Barrington couldn't be with us today. She's coming home from the hospital, we hope, today, but she had a fall, so let's keep her in our thoughts and minds. And instead of applauding, let's just have a moment of silence and compassion for Judy. Emily Pelican Page. Boyke Barrington Haber.
What did you get, Miranda?
Becca Bautour. Cindy Jones.
I'm not.
Dale Meyer Curley. Alexis Cushman. And finally, Desi Langmaid, who can't be with us today, but this is her last year with us. She's been our nursery provider for several years. So thank you, Desi.
Is there a mouse on there?
And next, I'd like to thank my special teacher helpers who helped me out for the whole year through the shutdown and then coming back and just showing up and helping out, and I so appreciate you. Maggie Boots, can you stand up?
No.
Narissa Barrington Haber, again, they are ill today, so they're not able to be with us, but huge help for me. Kate Cauchy. Susie Plunkett. Sarah Conlon. Rosie Brady. Miranda Brady. Jillian Brady. Jimmy Gallagher. Nora Donovan. And a special thank you to Lucas Meyer Crowley for being my sidekick in my teacher's
I know that many of you have taught in our RE program, even if you haven't taught in it this year. So we'd like to take a minute just to recognize how long people have been involved with the religious education program at First Church. So if you have taught in our program for 10 years or more, please, even if you didn't teach this year, please stand. If you have taught in our RE program 5 years or more, please stand. I mean, not you have to do it 10 years or more, just 5 to 10. 5 to 10. And finally, do it every year, but we appreciate that people rotate in and out of our religious education program. So some people can be in church and some people can, be involved in the choir and do things in different ways every year. So thank you. We really appreciate your help. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Just wanted to give a big, huge thank you to Lisa for keeping us together this year, the past couple of years, and taking on so much more than she expected and doing it amazingly well. And we're just so grateful.
Many of you may not know that Lisa was hired as the RE administrator, which is a different job than the RE director. But we hope next year Lisa will become our RE director and will pay her properly for a job well done. I invite you now to sing with me hymn number 66 in your grade hymnal, hymn number 66, When the Summer Sun is Shining. Please be seated. I'm not sure where the words that come from our baby dedication come from. I imagine they were penned by a previous minister. I'll give David Huebner credit. But I really don't know which one. I've kept them because I love dedicating our children's lives to our own true growing. Our own true growing hints at a truth that we all know, that we're different. We're each unique. We also give a flower at our baby dedications, and when we give the flower, we say, because every flower is unique and different in its own way, and we give it to the children as part of the baby dedication. And most of you, when I dedicated you, you started to eat the flower, or you pulled the head off the flower. But today you actually gave us back some flowers that you made, right? And they made these flowers thinking about that, about how unique and individual each flower is and how unique and individual they each are. And next week, when we celebrate our flower communion, those will be part of the flowers that you can take home, which is kind of exciting. It's not just as the UU Explorers program that teaches and encourages our own true growing. It's not just me as your minister that encourages you to have your own true growing. It requires approaching each other with kindness and curiosity and caring, to fertilize the ground for each of us to take chances, to be ourselves, and to grow into the fullness of who we are. I say this as if it's common sense, although as I know that some parents and teachers, including myself, do not always see that as the biggest gift they give their children, just to love them into their own true growing. But it really is the biggest gift. Even when our aim is to love our children into the fullness of their being, we sometimes miss the mark. I speak from experience as much as it has always been my intention to assist my daughters, Zoe and Lucy, in their own true growing, my own needs and insistence about what is right and the way things should be sometimes has gotten into my own way. For example, when Zoe and Lucy moved into the parsonage, I had a bunch of antiques, a lot of antique furniture because my grandmother was an antique dealer. And I was insistent that they use the furniture that I had in those bedrooms. Jenny actually had grown up in a family where children were able to decorate their rooms in any way they wanted to, including choosing the furniture. I grew up in a family where my parents made a lot of those decisions about my sisters and my bedrooms, and we had no choices at all about the furniture. In looking back, I see now how bullheaded I was about the furniture. I kept insisting that they keep that furniture in their rooms, and I was a stick in the mud about their rooms staying the same, until there was a great deal of crying and gnashing of teeth, maybe a tantrum or two. It was only then, when I saw their reaction, that I could see my own bullheadedness about the furniture. And sometimes true growing actually requires us to go through some discomfort, some misunderstanding. Do any of you fight with your parents sometimes? Yeah, sometimes you need to do that because it wakes them up. I've needed that, and sometimes they just want you to comply, but if you're nice about it, you can help wake them up to how maybe inconsistent they're being, right? I kept telling Zoe and Lucy, I always want to say yes to you, but you keep making me say no. When I was taking care of my nieces, Eloise was 5 at the time. She was terribly afraid of bugs and worms. Are any of you afraid of bugs and worms? Well, I would take every opportunity to take Eloise on a nature hike around my dad's house. He had a lot of trees, so there were lots of bugs and worms, and I would turn over rocks and try to make the bugs come out or the worms come out, so she would have to face her fears. We would even sit in the sandbox and wait for bugs and ants to come out, and bumblebees. But she was even afraid of the ladybugs. They would freak her out. When we would go out to the library, much to Eloise's chagrin, I would pick out books about a bug or a worm. There's a lot of great books about bugs and worms. Diary of a Worm, Diary of a Spider, Diary of a Fly, all by Doreen Cronin. These taught Eloise and Nora what to love about the bugs that they were afraid of in a really fun way and safe, because there are no actual bugs in the books, just pictures of bugs, comics of bugs, like Super Fly Guy. Anybody read Super Fly Guy? Super Fly Guy is a series by Ted Arnold that will make you laugh, I promise. This was another way I could help push my Eloise through her fear of bugs and worms. The last spring I was taking care of Eloise and Nora, I enrolled Eloise in a nature camp, one where they were specifically going to hang out with bugs and worms. I had spoken with her about the reasons why I thought this was important, and she actually started to get excited about it. Eloise had just finished a unit on space in her kindergarten class, and I suggested that going to camp, where she could be studying and learning about bugs, would be sort of like going through a wormhole of discomfort for a little while, and then she'd be on the other side of her fear of bugs and worms. That's what I mean about discomfort. Sometimes you have to go through some discomfort to get on the other side of something. And so if she could hang out with bugs and worms long enough, I thought she might like them. I still think that camp was a good idea, although it was never meant to be, because Eloise, a week before Eloise was to begin the camp, she and her sister were unexpectedly taken to live with the grandmother on the father's side. I will never know if my experiment would have worked. Eloise continues, at 10 years old, to be freaked out by bugs. I was reminded of this story the other day when I was watching a show called Black Mirror. It's not appropriate for all ages. It's very scary, and so I won't tell you the whole story. But the one I want to talk about was about a video game. And it will illustrate part of what I mean. It was sort of a Star Trek kind of space a video game, and the man would take DNA from people he worked with and put them into the story, so there were like live clones inside this video game that were playing the game with him. And he was the master, and he would come in and he would order them around and tell them what to do, and whenever he was there, they had to follow his rules, and they hated it. Does anybody like to be told what to do all the time?
No.
Raise your hand if you like to be told what to do all the time. Thought Rhea was putting up her hand. She's not, she's knitting. Nobody I know likes to be told what to do all the time. And what these people didn't like it, and so they made a trick and kept the captain who was playing the game on the ground so that they could make the ship go on their own, and they charted it through a wormhole. Do you know what a wormhole is? So nobody really knows what's on the other side of a wormhole. So when you first of all, it was hard to get to the wormhole because there were lots of rocks they had to avoid, and they were being chased by the guy who was controlling them. But they thought if they got to the other side of the wormhole, they'd be free. They even thought they might die, they weren't sure, but they knew that if they could get through that wormhole, something would change. I think that sometimes when we go through discomfort, we don't really know what's on the other side. But if we just try it and we just go through it, then on the other side, there's something. Well, what had happened to these guys is when they got on the other side, they could man the ship all by themselves. When they got on the other side, they could do it all for themselves. That's sort of like school, right? When you start in kindergarten, you don't really see that when you're done, you're going to be a grown-up, right? That you're going to get to pick your college, then you're going to go to college and you're going to get a job. You don't want to think about all that when you start in kindergarten. You don't really know how you're going to end up. But if you aim yourself and you go through all the discomfort, you just go through that wormhole, you get on the other side, you get to make your own decisions. This reminded me of Eloise. In some ways, her fear of bugs limited her joy of being outside. And to be free, she would need to face it eventually. It wouldn't be easy, but once she faced it, the fear would not have any more control over her, and she would be free from the fear of bugs. At least that's my premise. And this is the process with which we all, from our own, have to go through to become our own true selves, to have our own true growing. We need to go through some difficult passage sometimes. And when we get to the other side, we're going to be liberated and nothing will be holding us back. This is why we celebrate the markers in the children's lives, such as graduation, going from 3rd to 4th grade. that we recognize our children having passed through a gauntlet or a wormhole of trials and experience and emerged free from some of the things that hold them back. But this is the process that goes on all our lives, from beginning to end. That is our own true growing. To face our fears and triumph over our discomforts until we emerge free from our past limitations and closer to our own true selves. Our own true growing into the fullness of our being is what we wish for our children, and is what I wish for all of you. Please sing with me our final hymn, number 305, De Colores, number 305, and our children will recess, and we ask all of you to stay for our evening, number 305. Now let us fix our steps so we stagger not in the uneven motions of this world, but go steadily on our way, neither centering our journeys by the weather we meet or turning aside from anything that might befall us. Amen.